I realized that my sacred journey actually began when my parents sent me to England at the age of 8 to be raised by an English aunt, a friend of theirs, and in an all-white environment. And I actually never saw my family until I was 13. I saw my dad a couple of times a year, but I never saw my mother. I didn't see my brothers and sisters. And I spent basically 8 years, the very formative years of my life, living in England. And the takeaway and the message that I had, because it was very difficult, I dealt with a lot of racism, was you can't trust anyone. You can't rely on your parents. You can't rely on anybody. You do life on your own. And so my spiritual journey didn't really begin until I was in my late 30s. As you said, I was an actress, and then I was a producer in Hollywood, and I was a very ambitious, very achievement-oriented kind of a person, type A personality, and everything was about proving that I was good enough and proving that I could be successful because I had been a minority, and so you're very much brought up in a culture of achievement. And I had had a lot of success in my life because I only tackled things that I was good at, and I was good at enough things that worked for me. And so I was used to doing well. And when I was, I guess, in my 30s, I really always had a desire to be a director. And directing is a very hard thing to do in Hollywood. It's challenging to do, especially if you're a woman. And I didn't succeed at it. I failed at it in my eyes. Looking back, it was kind of ridiculous to look at it as failure, but I wanted to break into television, and it didn't happen. And I got really upset. I was working really long hours. I became very sick, and I had this autoimmune condition. And long story short, after seeing a lot of doctors, it became very clear I was actually out of commission for a year. I was flat on my back. I could barely do anything. I had a hard time breathing. I had all sorts of things that were wrong. And it became very clear that it was going to take a long time to recover, and that I could not go back to the lifestyle of the long hours, the terrible conditions, the late nights, and everything that went into directing. And I was mad. I couldn't believe that things had gone wrong to this extent, and I was so upset, and I was sick on top of it. And I was mad at myself, I was mad at everybody, and I was mad at God in particular. Like, what happened? How could this happen to me? And it took me a long time to finally accept the idea that this was what had A, happened, and B, that I needed to get into relationship with it. And I began to realize that my body was trying to talk to me. And that was what led me on a path of looking for answers spiritually. I became a spiritual practitioner and worked with Michael Beckwith, as you said, and so on. And so it was actually a very important and wonderful thing, that lesson that my body taught me, and it really led me on my spiritual path, and a lot of wonderful things happened. Now, you flash forward many years later, I am doing my teleseminar. I'm doing this wonderful work where I meet the best doctors, the best healers, where we're making a difference. It's all really wonderful for a long time. And then I begin to have a sense of frustration. I'm not in the right place. I start getting sick again. And I don't know what's happening. And I try to do all kinds of things to get better. I try to, I try and make things happen because that's kind of me. I'm a little workaholic, a little worker bee, and I'm very productive. So I'm doing kind of more of what it is I do,
but I'm not really feeling better, and things just aren't in alignment. And one day, I get a message from God, and I can only say it was a message from God. I'm clairaudient, and so in my life I have received these messages where I hear things, and it's, there's just this sense of a voice in my head, and I got this message, and it was very clear, and it went like this. First of all, the message said, quit the teleseminar, stop working, and concentrate on your health, and a book that I was writing. Now, then it went on and it said this, live by insight, not by eyesight. Insight, in quotation marks, not I, the word I in quotation marks, sight. Be still, stop the doing, follow the signs, listen and hear. Only act when you get a clear go. Have faith, rest easy, embrace effortlessness. Life is. And the voice was as clear as that, and the communication was that specific, and I got up and I wrote it down. And frankly, I was stunned when I got this message. I was like, I can't stop work. How are we going to survive? Where am I going to get money from? And what's going to happen to everything that I've worked so hard for? It's just like the time when I got sick all over again. I'm going to lose everything. And I actually cried because I was so upset at the message. And when you think about it, how insane you can get, because it was telling me, have faith, rest easy, embrace effortlessness. And I saw it as a problem. The idea of turning things over to my husband, who was also worked with me in the business, was frightening, because I saw myself as, I'm the one who does the business. I'm the one who has the ideas, and he was somebody who, he had his own thing. He's a writer, and he wasn't really passionate about the work. He thought it was interesting, but he had other things to do, so I felt I couldn't hand it over. And it took me, frankly, a long time to listen and really get the message. I did stop work, but I was always sort of trying to put my toe back in the water, and sometimes I did, and I would get a course correction like that. And it took me a while to really get it and to start living by it. And what I realized was that as a young girl, I had bought into the idea that I was doing life on my own. And all the time, I was following my spiritual path, and I was learning to be a spiritual counselor, and I loved God, and I loved my spiritual life. There was a part of me that wouldn't let go. It wouldn't fully trust that if I let go, I would be taken care of just like the lilies in the field. And I really believed that I had to work hard for everything, and that I couldn't trust anybody to take care of me. And God was saying, let go, let go, let go. Trust, trust. Embrace effortlessness. Rest easy. Life is. And this past year and a half has been about really going on that path of surrender and letting go. And I now know in a profound way that I am not alone, and I've never been alone, and that I just acquired a false belief, and that I, in fact, have always been supported and guided, even when I've taken, I don't really believe it's the wrong path, but it's a difficult path. And it has been just wonderful to have a lot of the illusions I've had about life melt away as I surrender and I let go. And as I do that, life becomes easier and it does become effortless. I still have, that little ego part of me, but I am surrendering more and more. And I know when I wake up in the mornings, I ask, what is it what is it that I'm supposed to do today? And I just remember, live and let go. Just live and let go. And it really is a wonderful way to live when I do it, because life becomes an adventure. I think Reverend Patricia and I were talking about how we had both been guided to move to Florida, and a couple of years ago I was guided to move to Florida. Well, I'd never been to Florida. I had no idea really anything about what it was like. I moved to a town that I didn't know. We had flown in once and spent a day looking at the place that I'd been guided to come to, and we packed our bags and showed up. And that's the kind of adventure that opens up when you say, yes, I'm going to let go and let God. And it feels really good to just know I don't have to do it all. I don't have to make things happen. I just have to allow them and to make them welcome.